I can upload a new one,
Yeah.
fix it and upload a new one, especially now that I know it's 6 hours for really 1 and 2 and 2 hours for that.
Yeah.
And then the other 6 go in 1 and 2. Yeah. Dang it. I hate that I did that. I really thought I had it right, but this is the one I printed off. Okay, so we got to log on here in just a second.
Yeah, I got 2 minutes,
Okay.
12:58.
Well, if you want to email it to me real quick,
Wow.
I can have it up on mine if it's different.
That's good. Where the hell is my, where's all my dang folders? You see how my folders aren't coming up now? That's weird. KGR.
There you go.
1 minute.
Okay, my mic is on and I don't need earphones. I feel like if I maybe push this out, I can look here but still see my screen. Should be helpful.
No. All right, well, there's something I gotta fix, because that's the one I uploaded, so, and it matches this.
Okay,
I was hoping that I just had to grab the wrong one, but, oh well. This is what she has, so we gotta deal with it.
okay. Well, and we can just say, the one we uploaded was not
It's
we
1 o'clock.
just updated.
All right. Cynthia.
Right on set.
Daffie, we are on. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
I think we are all here.
There we go.
Wonderful, great. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the program review for the virtual site visit, I would say, for your program. I thank you for attending. I believe that all of you have experience with this process already to some degree.
To some degree.
Degree. And so I will say in full transparency, you are more experienced than I am. This is my very first review that I'm actually conducting for the board. It happened to land in my inbox right during the holidays, and so it's been scrambled ever since. But again, thank you for taking the time to be here. It is a critical part of this process. And I just want to honor your time, and I want to thank you up front for your commitment to really increasing the capacity among the health and well-being coaching profession. So thank you for that. And before we begin, I just wanted to really get to document who is in the room with us today. And so if you can just introduce yourselves fully. Well, I should say who I am. I'm Cynthia Luna, by the way. I failed to introduce myself. I'm Cynthia Luna. And I am in BHWC, and I'm a Well Coaches graduate. That was a program that I came through. I do have a coaching program of my own, and I am a content provider for BHWC, but I work full-time for the federal government as a health and wellness champion and a training specialist within the National and I have over 2 decades of instructional design curriculum development experience. So having said that, who would like to go first?
Okay, so I'll go. So my name is Beth Knott. I have been coaching 3-4 years since I was certified. I am an audiologist as well. So I was a pediatric audiologist for 20 years in an ENT clinic and was audiologist part-time, coaching part-time, and I just fell in love with coaching and have for a few years now shifted full-time into coaching, and it's just been amazing. And I am an instructor for Randolph Community College, who is also an approved program. So yes, we do have some experience with teaching, and it's just been such a blessing, and we just love the impact that this class provides, and we are just really excited about at RCC. It's all in person, so everyone is driving to us in the classroom, and so we're really excited to take our class and be able to really make it accessible to everyone. So here we are.
Great. And can you, for the record, state your actual position within the organization?
Within this organization? So I'm the curriculum director within this organization.
Okay, great. And who next?
I'll go next. My name's Karen Ray Ritter. I go by my middle name, Ray. But I really got interested in health and wellness because I worked at UNC in nutrition and epidemiology. And I just retired from there December 31st, so I'm less than 2 weeks retired. And I started my health and wellness journey in 2000, I can't remember now, it was 18 or 19, maybe 2019. I actually took the Dr. Sears course online and loved it. And it was pre them being approved, I think. And so they were just in the process of getting their approval. Anyway, I took the Randolph course and it was approved. And at the end of it, I sat for the exam and then started teaching with Beth at Randolph. Then that following year, and I've taught there this is the second year that I've taught there with Beth. So that's my background in how I got to this as a career choice.
And what is your role within the organization?
Well, I'm going to be instructing, and since I have sort of a background in nutrition epidemiology, I will do some of the teaching for the content of the disease processes and that sort of thing. And I own my own coaching business and have for several years now. So I'll also be doing some of the teaching of the structure and the process. Beth is she's the curriculum expert who does mostly the development of curriculum, and I help deliver.
Okay. Thank you. And Daffie?
Hi, Cynthia. My name's Daffie Garris, and I'm excited to say I also have just retired December 31st from the state, from higher education. I love teaching, and it's a way of giving back. And I knew retirement was a potential on the horizon, so I took the course at Randolph Community College. I was one of the first, once it got approved and accredited. I sat for the exam, and I'm nationally certified, and then I met these two ladies through that course, and through health coaching. I have my own health coaching business, Garris Coaching, and I have 8 or 9 years in teaching for higher education. And then the other thing I've done for years and years is I'm a chief financial officer. I was of the college. So my background is obviously business, as well as I have some instructional background. I do some teaching for the state on wonderful topics like budgeting and things like that. So I'm looking forward. I have not taught this course, but I have a lot of teaching experience. So I'm looking forward to being a partner in this company and not just obviously handling the finances, but teaching. I will be teaching. I've also served as a mentor many hours. So I'll be sitting in on all of the student work and helping provide mentorship and feedback. So I'll be an instructor also, and I guess I'm also the financial officer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm just, I'm very envious of you all who are retired. So with that, I just wanted to explain what today's meeting's about. So we're going to be looking at your application, and I'm going to use this time to try to clarify some questions that I have, and just to get greater clarity on what your program is about and what your approach and philosophy is about. From what I can tell, you are really focusing on the actual practice, and I do think that's wonderful and unique about your program. And I just wanted to learn a little bit more about what that looks like, because sometimes, you know, the numbers on the page, the words on the page don't really fully illuminate what the experience is, and I just want to get a fuller picture of that. I do believe that I did get a chance to sit and look at some other applications that had come through as part of my training, and this is it looks relatively straightforward and really well documented, and I really thank you and appreciate you guys for doing that. There are some areas where I do have a couple of questions, because sometimes it just is hard to visualize what is there, but this is truly about just getting greater clarity and understanding, and, you know, being in service and partnership with you to make sure that this application can move forward. So before we begin, do you have any questions about the process and what we might be covering in the next? I set aside 90 minutes, but hopefully it does not need to go that long.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions before we begin? Okay, so I'm not going to be recording this session because we want to respect the confidentiality and privacy of all of our programs, and so I'm not going to record, and I ask that you don't record as well. And again, what you share with me is, you know, going to be held in strictest confidentiality, other than what is necessary to convey to the program approval committee. And so what's going to happen next, this is part of an ongoing process. You submitted your application, I conducted my review. We are on a timeline. There is a schedule where hopefully we can get this application completed and submitted to the program approval committee within 40 days total. That's the maximum time that I have to get this done. So we're at a good place in the timeline, I believe. And so I'm going to conduct today's visit. I will have a couple of weeks to get the report finalized and submitted to Jennifer, and then she will submit that to the program approval committee. So that's kind of what's going to happen next. But for now, I guess it's time to get started. So I am curious in general about your program's mission and philosophy regarding just, you know, what is your approach to health and wellness training?
Okay. So part of why we wanted to come and do this and, you know, be able to do this where we have a further reach than just the classroom is, in being in the classroom, we have really seen the value of being in the classroom. And having everyone together and being able to make those connections and develop that rapport. And it is amazing what we see from day one to our last day. And our students now have an entire cohort for the rest of their lives of these people that they now are so vested in. And we really want to bring that classroom feel to a virtual platform. And so that is why most of what we do is going to be synchronous, because you just can't get that watching a video. But when you are able to touch it, feel it, see it, and be with that person consistently, week after week, over and over again, it's it's just like no other. And we really, our philosophy is learning by doing. And we really stand behind that, which is why a big part of our program is the doing, because that is where you're gonna really, really make an impact and really develop those skills. So I would say, and you girls can certainly pipe in as well, our mission really is connecting with our students. It is incredibly important to us that they have access to us and that we are in front of them at all times. And so the reason why our class size is going to be about 30, and we really don't want to go above that, because when we have accessibility, we really want them to be comfortable with us and know that we are here and we are here to learn and connect, and that class size is incredibly important to us. So I would say our overall mission is connecting with our students, allowing our students to connect with each other, and really just the doing, just the coaching, and developing those skills through actually having that coaching experience.
Right. And I'll add that we have seen, by doing this at Randolph, we've seen amazing progress in where a student starts and the coach that they are at the end, with this many coaching sessions, with as much feedback from us and board certified or Randolph certified coaches from previous cohorts, which we plan to keep in this. They're getting a lot of feedback, and that really helps them to become a better and better coach and refine their skills over time. I know that the board's minimum is 3 coaching sessions, and I personally, honestly, I won't speak for Beth and Daffie on this, but I personally don't think that's enough. That's why we've incorporated so much. It's what Beth said, with the doing is the best way to learn. We even incorporate them getting their own client, so they have a feel for what it feels like to get a client, and then to coach that client through an entire cycle, session 1 through closing session. And the reports back from students are that's more helpful to them, and us watching every single one of those. We watch every single one and give them feedback, and that they have told us that really made a difference, to have their own client and get feedback on all the individual sessions. So that doing is critical. I'm sorry, Daffie.
Yes, no, excuse me. Yes, as to kind of some accessibility and doing. Those are the 2 things we're really focused that the students do. But I'd like to take a little shift, and you can tell just from hearing us, we believe this is a really emerging field. Just health coaching in general. We each have had our own businesses. We have a passion, all of us, because not just for teaching to others, obviously, but because health coaching works. We've seen it. We've seen success stories of our students coaching. I know Beth has told me 2 or 3. We've even had a pilot program where Beth's coaching business partnered with Randolph Community College to work with students. And the amount of success, because of mental health issues in today's world, that everybody doesn't need that. Some people just need coaching, health coaching. So I guess when we start talking about it, we get so excited because we have the passion for the industry.
It comes through.
Good.
Okay, so I think you spoke to this in your prior responses, but if you guys had to each choose an aspect of your program that you would consider its greatest strength, what offering would you submit in response?
I would hands down say the doing, the hands-on experience of, we go through 3 full coaching cycles in one class. So that's 17 total coaching sessions that they are going to do, either with a classmate or someone that they have chosen outside that is their client while we are in class. It's the experience, and we see it. We have, at RCC, we have played around with having 2 cycles versus 3 cycles, and boy, when we jump to 3 cycles, it's amazing. They're ready. When they leave the program, they are ready. And so I would say that, we all know how to sit and listen to a lecture. Yet when it comes to coaching, we have our list of questions, and this is a good question, this is a good question. Well, every client has a different personality. They have a different perspective. And so we may have the best list of questions in the world. We still don't know what's going to be in front of us until we actually do it. And so to be able to have different personalities in class and that different personality that they're bringing in, it just makes a difference in being able to see, oh, this is what coaching is actually like. I really do have to think of what is the best question right now. What is the best reflection right now? Because this doesn't always look like my sheet of paper. And we practice those. We have the sheets of paper that we practice. However, when you're doing, it all comes together and it all makes sense. And so I would say that is probably one of the things that we are most passionate about because we see how well it works.
Thank you. And what would you offer, Ray?
Well, the same thing. I was going to say, I have nothing to add. I do think that is the strength of our program.
All right, and Daffie?
Well, I agree. I think that's the strength of our program in terms of what students actually benefit. I think also something that sets us a little bit apart is the synergy between the 3 of us ladies and the different backgrounds. And I really believe we have all come together, and the 3 of us have such a passion and feel like this is going to make a difference. We don't want to just have a company. So part of that synergy is just the synergy between us with our different varied backgrounds, and that we all agree working with the students and being accessible and having them coach and coach and coach is what's important.
Yeah. Well, and just as you can see here, this is what the students are going to see. So we thought it would be fun to zoom in from what they're going to see. So when they zoom in, this is actually our lecture. So we really wanted the feel of sitting in a classroom so that they don't feel like they're just in front of a Zoom camera. And so when we conduct class, this is actually what it's going to look like. So they actually have access to both of us. And that is to our synergy. We really do kind of this back and forth and between all of we all coach in different settings, which is really cool because we get to see all these different perspectives. And so I do think that this classroom feel and this kind of working together and not just everyone in boxes is gonna really make this feel like they're in a classroom. And that's our goal. The closer we can get to a real classroom is absolutely our mission and how we want to present to our students.
And is this backdrop the part of the studio that
Yes,
you referenced?
so this is here. And then as we're lecturing, we will present the lecture behind us. So they still get us. And so we will be here, and then this is where our lecture goes. So it really is as if we're standing in front of a classroom and we can do all the, fancy things of depending on who's talking. And so we're super excited about this. And really, when we came together, that was our mission. Okay, we want to figure out a way that we can bring the classroom that we know works to other people. And so that was really kind of the beginning of the brainstorm of how can we do that? What does that look like? And that's how we've kind of come to where we are now okay, this is how we can make it work.
So
I'm sorry. On any given night or day, whenever the class is being held, you'll always have 2 instructors so that there is the feel of a classroom. And it will be that backdrop, and we have the capabilities of zooming in on if someone's giving a lecture. So I think we've maximized technology to have the feel of a classroom. And I'm fortunate that these ladies have taught and they've learned at RCC, but then we have developed KGR product. We've developed and tweaked and made better what we're teaching in the classroom, which is using our live studio.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. I did want to ask a question about the partnership. So when I was going through the curriculum, and actually you called out the thing that I noticed. This is labor intensive, and yes, we own it. I do remember seeing that. My question for you is sustainability. So how, what is your vision for this program in 5 years or 10 years? What does that look like?
I think it looks like pass rate, right? Like we are developing strong coaches. And that's our end goal. That's all we want is we all come from different backgrounds and we've all been embedded in health and wellness, yet we have found a passion we never knew existed. And to be able to now carry that forward, that is really what excites us. And so when we talk about sustainability, we talk about, okay, we want to know with all of our heart that we are graduating confident, ready coaches. We don't have a vision of, oh, we're going to start graduating, 300 people this year, 500 people. As far as growth, where we see the growth is the development of our coaches, not necessarily growth in our numbers. So I don't know if that answers your question completely, but we really feel like we have a really good thing here. Now, as far as further outreach, does that look like continuing education? Does that look like, those things? Absolutely. We would love to see growth in that. Yet when it comes to our academy, we just want to learn from what we learn every time and just get better. Every time we teach a class, get better with the next cohort and know that what we are doing is working and know that what we are doing is making an impact, because that's the bottom line.
And just you answered that question. And there's a question that is underlined, but does anybody else have something to offer?
I would like to add something to that. I think in the future, because Beth mentioned continuous improvement, which is extremely important to us, but also changing with the industry. We really believe this is an emerging industry, and it's new relatively compared to many industries. So we're staying. Beth don't want to brag as much, but I'm going to brag on those two ladies particularly. And I do a lot of it myself, but the two of them, they are staying up to date. I just retired and my job was so busy, I've not been able to do that as much. But we are all constantly, we're reading, we're learning, we're staying abreast, we're using all of the latest books and we're learning. And so I think the future, in my opinion, looks like, I really want us to be the premier coaching school that you guys even say, hey, I don't know if you ever not really promote, I know you love us all, but that group of ladies is turning out great coaches. And we do have continuing education. I want to help people understand if they have a coaching business, what does finance look like? How do you handle a business? And I know Ray has expertise in sleep and some other areas, and that has developed stress relief and mindfulness. And so between all of us, we're already creating continuing ed credits because we want to, I think we want to be out front, whatever that looks like.
Right.
And I think it's a changing industry and we're going to be ready.
Yeah, I think of us as a company, an academy that stays abreast of the latest research. Because, you know, one day you're supposed to eat eggs and then you're not, and then you're supposed to eat eggs again. And so I think it's critical for any organization, academy, whatever, business, whatever you want to term you want to use there, to stay up on the latest research so that you are delivering that information to your students as well. And so for me, I think of our future growth in that area. I don't see us ever being a health coach institute or a Dr. Sears Wellness Institute. That's not my goal, is not to pump out thousands of health coaches. No, I think where our growth is, like Beth said originally, is in continually improving our program and staying up with the latest research and that sort of thing. I just got accepted to the Kresser Functional Medicine Institute starting this fall, and I'm looking forward to bringing maybe some of that information into what we teach our students. I think functional medicine and individual nutrition and that sort of thing is critical and going to be more and more critical going forward in health and wellness.
So thank you for all those responses. And so here's the underlying question that I did not fully verbalize. What is your exit strategy if for the time that you decide that maybe the partnership is no longer what you're doing? Like how will you support your students? Or, you know, or is there a plan to bring on additional instructors? Like, what does that look like?
As of right now, there is no plan to bring on additional instructors. We want to keep this small. We want to keep it intimate. We know our synergy. We know we work. We know that we all have the same mindset, which is critical. So, you know, we have no plans to bring on again, we want to keep our numbers where they are, and we have a good thing. And so, you know, I'm going to pull the positive mindset here. We don't have, you know, we don't plan on exiting. You know, we do have an operating agreement.
We do. Where if someone were to unfortunately pass away or some unforeseen circumstance happen, we do have that. So I'll let Daffie, she's our business person, she can speak to that, but we know things do happen.
Yeah. We will never drop the ball on a student. I mean, we have students who are still reaching out to us, you know, from 3 cohorts ago. We just got an email today, Ray and I, from a student, and he is actually, you know, anyway. So the relationship with our students does not end. Each of our cohorts have taken it upon themselves to develop either a Facebook page where it's just them or a test study page, and Ray and I are in all of those groups. So they actually still have all access to us, and we love it. So, you know, just whatever may happen, there is no way we would remove ourselves from the communication that we have with our students, even if we were no longer coaching. And honestly, that is one of the funnest parts of this, is that we say it all the time. I mean, we open the first day of class of like, look, we're the ones standing up here. We are going to learn as much from you as you are learning from us. And it is awesome. And so there, you know, we love communicating with our former students. So I do not foresee that being something that would ever change as far as kind of how we work post-class.
Yeah, and if you're asking about, you know, when we're 85, Beth is a little younger than Daffie and I, let me just say that. So she can't even really envision those ages where I can at this point. I do see that, you know, for KGR to continue beyond us, at some point we will have to open our mind to bringing on others. And the good part about that is I already have in my mind some students, the one who reached out to us this morning, who would be fantastic instructors that we could bring on board or try to pull them in, when we start hitting those ages where we really do have to consider something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I didn't mean to be doomsday.
Just from I can't help it, I'm so businessy, just from a technical and business perspective, we do have this outlined because we don't know. Let's say something were to happen that Beth has to move, for instance. As Ray and Beth both said, the number of students they know that have passed the exam now, and we would be super picky, but we could bring somebody in as needed. And that could be true if one of us were sick or had to take a leave of absence. And we do have that outlined in exit strategies in case of, God forbid, death or just a partner wanting to withdraw. We have an operating agreement for that.
Thank you. So now I wanted to move into the coaching cycles and what those look like. So I know that you've kind of spelled all this out in your narratives and inside your responses, but I am curious. I mean, just talk about just one cycle, the very first cycle. What does that look like?
Okay, so what we do is we break our students up into triads for one group, dyads, and we've kind of bounced around triad versus dyad and which one we do first. Generally, in the first cycle, we have broken up into triads. We're probably going to keep it at dyads now that it's even more intimate because we are going to be watching every one of their videos. And so it's going to be a little bit easier for us to keep that dyad going. And so what we do is we actually, in lecture, we begin class with just all the general things. And then when we start to move into that coaching, each class before, we have a lecture on what that session looks like. And so we go through that with each of the students. And here are questions that would be appropriate in this cycle. And so they kind of have almost a cheat sheet of like, what does session one look like? What are kind of some of those things that we want to make sure we check off? Confidentiality, the contract, those types of things. And then we actually break into our dyads. And then they go and coach each of those sessions. And then we actually come back together, and when everyone's together, we have a full discussion on what did you learn, what came out, what was difficult, what was easy. And so as a class, they then begin to share their experiences of what they learned in that actual coaching session. So the debriefing is a big part of what we do, and there's a lot of insight that comes out of that debriefing after each of those sessions.
Yeah, and I will add, I'm going to jump in here and add that in round one, I sort of think of that as the learning round, and it's 5 sessions. And just to get them through, we just have one ongoing session during that first 5. And when I am live actively observing in that, because we all go into one of them with a couple of students, I will even interrupt at points and say, okay, here is a point where, what could have been said or the question that could have been asked this way, instead of the close end. You see how you started the question with why, or you ask a yes/no question and it just killed the conversation. This would be where you want to turn that to a what or a how question and keep it open. And it's okay that you did it, you're learning, it's fine, but you can see how it stops the progression of them giving you information. And so that learning round, they get this real-time feedback as they go for those that we're with, and then they get the feedback for those we're not with. We'll be with them next week, but we will also watch that one and give them feedback after the fact. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It makes total sense, and
Okay.
I totally appreciate that way of teaching.
Okay.
Because you don't see it often that a coach will interrupt another coach because there seems to be a reluctance to do that. But I think the students are actually looking for that feedback immediately in session. So I appreciate that you do that. Just for my own clarity, are you saying that, Beth, are you saying that the lecture serves as the advanced organizer for the content that you want them, that's kind of like the information sharing, the content that you want them to kind of apply within the actual coaching session? But is it there's a lecture that's a part in a different session, or there's like maybe 20 minutes dedicated to lecture and then you go into the session?
So the lection precedes the coaching session. And each round looks a little different. So we have coaching sessions that are recorded, that we have them watch, and we actually go through the coaching sessions together. So the prep before the session looks a little different each round. We get a little bit more complex in what they're exposed to. And so that way they have all of these different outlets of coaching sessions given in different methods. But our first round is that true lecture of here is what this looks like.
Okay, got it. They do the coaching practice, and then you will be observing within it. They'll get debriefed in a separate session, full group.
Yeah, and the debriefing is where a lot comes out. Particularly like from the coach that's been in that session. So then we actually bring that session to the debriefing and go through it. And here's what we saw, here's what we noticed, and then it's pretty amazing the themes that start to come out. And so all of the other students, oh my gosh, I had that same thing. And so it really sparks this conversation amongst students, which again is where the classroom is so important to us, because we've seen how much they feed off of each other and how much we all learn from each other, because we all coach very differently. And when you can hear all of those different styles all together, then we all learn. Everybody learns.
And you're using an assessment rubric as you
Yes.
I saw that. And so you're using it at every session.
Yeah. So that way they know. They know come end of class, hey, here's how you're going to be graded, one. However, here are the main coaching skills, and so we encourage them. And, still to this day, we reflect. When I coach someone, I actually pull my rubric out. It's like, okay, what did that session look like? And so we really instill that in them from day one of, hey, don't be afraid to grade yourself. Reflect on what you have done, and it's only going to make us stronger when you can really go in, gosh, I probably could have had some more reflections. I missed that part of, I better go back and make sure they're really clear on this part of the contract, or whatever it looks like. Yet, that self-reflection is so critical that is something we really want to instill in them from day one. So it's just there. It's just part of what we do. So by the end, they are so used to seeing that form, and they are so used to reflecting that it isn't even a thing when we sit down and actually go through the graded one, because it's just what we do.
Yeah. We like for them to be used to it, the rubric. And the students have said they like having it, so they know. And it's kind of a quick little sheet of what they need to make sure, so they look over it before their session or whatever. Because we also record them at Randolph, some students would come out with, well, I didn't realize I said so often. Yeah. Or other little things that they watch themselves and rubric themselves and realize some things that they need to improve without us really even having to they're telling us, oh, I need to work on this. So I really like the recording themselves and the rubric themselves. It helps them to just improve their skills even beyond the feedback we're giving them.
Awesome.
And can I add, Ray and Beth, that it's also that you guys, when I've mentored, when you have a dyad, they're giving each other feedback too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's feedback from all different areas, and including even, you can see some people just are immediately taken to coaching, and they can give good feedback to their peer. And that's important. And to clarify, just because of one of the questions, the debrief happens at the end of every class, correct, when they're doing the coaching?
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned that it was a separate,
Yeah, that
it's
was
actually
my
at,
question.
Yeah.
yeah, it's at the end of every class. So we talk about the process, the structure, whatever we're teaching on, whichever coaching session, then they practice, and then we come back for a debrief, and then they still get, and you guys correct me, make sure I'm right, and they still get additional feedback as we look at the recorded
Yes.
sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my question. So how much total post-session feedback does each individual student receive on average?
So throughout this session, they're going to get feedback at all times. I mean, we're constantly giving feedback, particularly in the debriefing and when we are in that session. At the end of each coaching round, that is when every student is going to get that official 20-minute feedback session. So we have 3 coaching rounds. Yes, so we have intentionally built the 20 minutes in. However, we really are going to have feedback after every class, but it will be a group feedback. It will be or I actually have the instructor in my triad today, and that's going to be that direct feedback. Yet we will take at the end of that session, because that way we can give that feedback on the whole session as a whole of like, okay, here, from session 1 to the end, here is that final 20-minute, and then there are 3 rounds of that coaching. And so each of those rounds is going to get its own official 20-minute feedback.
Thank you so much. And it could have been I'm sure it's very clear on the paper, but I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah. Well, that's a big one. That's a big check that we have to check off, right? So, but it's helpful to have that feedback, and they appreciate the feedback. I mean, they really do, and so it's a critical component, and it is important.
Thank you. So you mentioned mentors, and how are they used within, or do you use them within your coaching sessions? How are they employed?
So we reach out to all of our former graduates and, hey, anyone who's interested in mentoring, let us know. And then we just create a mentor sheet. And so as we're meeting, they're provided the link to class, and then we will assign them to breakout rooms. So we like to have a mentor with every group. And some days we have enough mentors where that happens, and sometimes we do not, but we just, they are invited to each class individually. And then once we know our mentors, we just at that point add them to a breakout room, and then they are with that triad. And the mentors provide feedback in our session at the end too, which is great. So they really have that different perspective of what that coaching session looks like from more of kind of our seat, and then the student share. So there's all sorts of things that come out in the debriefing.
Yeah, because all of our mentors are certified, they've gone through this whole process. They know what mentoring is about. They know how to mentor appropriately, and they use the rubric that we use. And so it's essentially the same as having one of us in there with those students as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And moving on to the actual practical skills assessment itself. So who's involved in that conversation, the final one?
Yes.
All 3.
Yeah.
So all 3 together with each student, or do you
So
divide and conquer?
what we do is we actually have a conversation together, because again, we are with them, we have a whole Excel sheet of who has a mentor today, who has an instructor today, who's been observed, where do our videos stand? And so we kind of keep this complex list of all the things that are happening. So we have a debriefing before we meet with the student. And then at that point, we are each assigned 10 students, and then that one instructor is going to be the one that brings all of our feedback together for the 20-minute session.
Yeah.
Does that
Got it.
kind of clarify what that conversation is going to look like? Okay.
Thank you. Give me 2 seconds to capture that? I wish I typed faster. Right, great. Thank you so much for that. And then I have just a question about a discrepancy I believe I may have seen, and I just wanted to get clarification on it. So it was on the total hours of instruction for content area 3. I believe on the instructional hours chart, there were 27 total hours listed, and then on the faculty chart, there were 19. Was that a discrepancy?
Yeah,
I'll let Ray, we literally, yes.
we found it, but after we had submitted, yeah, trying to make these things match. Well, we had originally taken all of our asynchronous hours in the, I'll just hold it up, in the little chart and put them down in the bottom. And after talking to Jennifer, she said, no, put them all in the top. And I moved them all in the top, but I didn't get them separated properly the way they match. So the way it lays out is we do have 87 hours total, 60 are synchronous, we have 27 asynchronous. And the 27 asynchronous, the way those break out, we have 19 that are in content area 3. And we have 8 that are in 1, 2, and 4.
Okay, awesome. Can you send me the updated table?
Yeah.
Within 48 hours?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the only thing I was like,
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It did not match up, and that's my fault. I put the numbers in the wrong columns. But I'll fix that. And will I be able to upload it though? Like I went back and looked, and it didn't
You
look.
can send it to me via email.
Okay.
What I would do is I'll just send you a follow-up formal email request for the additional information.
Gotcha.
And you can just
Okay.
send it to me and I'll copy Jennifer on it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I thought it's locked down once you submit, and I couldn't change it. So sorry about that.
No problem. That's on us. So you spoke to the Excel spreadsheet that you're managing to track students' progress. Are you using Teachable as a LMS as well? Okay, so can you just talk a little bit about how you are tracking and managing process overall? Like how are the systems talking to each other? Like what are you doing to manage your students' progress?
Okay, I'll let you pipe in. The Excel sheet is just to keep our brain straight. So it really is just it is not at all tied to class. It's a really just, we have a shared document amongst each other of, okay, I really would like to observe this triad based on what I've seen, or you haven't observed this triad. So it's just a way for us to make sure that everyone has equal instructor time, everyone has equal mentor time, and that we are on task and doing what we're supposed to do. So that really is kind of an internal thing to just make sure we have a checkpoint. So that won't be in Teachable. That's not even accessible to students. It's really just to make sure we're minding our P's and Q's and we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then as far as Teachable,
I'm going to technically correct Beth. It's not Excel. It's Google. We use Google Sheets.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that way,
Yeah.
all 3 of us have access to it at any time, and at the same time even. You know how Google Sheets works. And it is just a big old logic puzzle I'm a math major, so I usually set that up and we fit that in. So, and one other thing that we want to make sure we do is that each of us see the students the same number of times. Now, it might not come out exactly in the end. It might be that I've seen a group of students one more time and Beth's seen a group of students, you know, that sort of thing. But even as it is possible mathematically, we make sure that's the case because we feel like it's important for every student to get feedback from me, from Beth, and from Daffie equally because we give different feedback even, I'm sure. So yeah, and that's a totally separate thing. Our learning and management system is teachable. That's what we've decided to go with. Daffie and I have been in the thick of that and learning. It's a bit of a learning curve for us as well. Because it's, you know, the first time that we've done this, and well, we hadn't even done it yet, but we have started putting our content up, and we have most of our content up, but we're tweaking, and I'm sure after class 1 we're going to be doing more tweaking. But I do like Teachable. I don't know how much experience you've had with it, but
I've used Thinkific, so.
yeah, it's a good learning management system, and they're continuously improving it. Every week or two, we're getting emails. We went ahead and bought the professional version back in September when we started this whole thing, and they're continually adding new elements to it that will help us make the course even better and better as time goes on. So I really like that about it. They're really committed to it as a learning management system. And it manages your students for you. Like when a student signs up, it's behind the scenes. They sign up, they do an intake form, they pay their money if they're committed, or they can just reach out to us if there are questions and go to our homepage. And it manages behind the scenes the student being enrolled, and then, and we can do what's called a drip, which means that this week we set up week 1, and then week 2 we drip it on the date we want it dripped, and it's got all the bells and whistles of a learning management system. Yeah.
Awesome. And what happens if your student gets all the way through the 16 weeks, correct? You're estimating they get through the 16 weeks and the practical assessment did not go quite the way we thought it was going to go. What happens then?
So that's a great question. And we have a very hard conversation, is essentially what it comes down to. And we make it very clear in the beginning that, this isn't just let me just go take this class and do this thing, that there are expectations, and that if the expectations are not met, then we are going to be having a conversation at the end of the 16 weeks. So they know about it up front. They're getting feedback from us, which is another really good thing about, you guys implementing the 20-minute session. So it's not like they're going to be blindsided, because they will be getting feedback from us from day 1. Yet we're not afraid to have that conversation. And it's important to us that our students are ready. And if they're not ready, that's okay. We're not going anywhere. Our goal is to develop really good coaches. And when they are a really good coach, they're going to know it. We're going to know it. And that's essentially how it's going to look.
Yeah.
So that is a very interesting approach, and I have some follow-up questions regarding that. So maybe you have a student who's not comfortable. Maybe they've gone through 2 cycles and they're still not comfortable. I'm not sure they're going to be comfortable at the end of round 3. Are they allowed to continue to take the classes or retake classes, or how do you accommodate that individual?
I think all of the above. Absolutely, we would never have a student leave, because again, the more experience is only going to make them better, right? So we would never tell a student that they are no longer welcome in our program. And what does that look like? Yes, taking the class again. what does that look like from a business standpoint? I don't know. That's a great question. We haven't really developed that in our contract yet. So that's something we really need to, okay, what does this look like for our repeat students? If we're not comfortable, we're not comfortable, and that's just going to have to be the reality, and they're going to need to go through it again. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Do you know what?
Yeah, well, we had a student at Randolph who went through our course 3 times, and in his 3rd round, he became a really good coach. So he just needed more practice to get comfortable with it, and he was willing to continue doing it again. He really wanted to do it, and so. We've had several students who've gone through 2 rounds, and that's okay. You know, so what? You know, it takes me a long time to get my English right. So, yeah, we all have our areas where we work a little harder, and that's fine. Yeah.
So you don't place any particular limits on how many, there is no barrier to a student who desires to complete the training to be afforded the opportunity to do so.
Right, yeah. I think that's a safe assessment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'd like to add, just from obviously a business perspective, we are in the process of making sure that we're very clear with our students up front what's expected, and then even from a refund policy, if something were to happen, all the way to if they do need to repeat. All right, what might that look like so we can help the student to repeat? Because we're not gonna be a company that's trying to take 300 students through. We each want 10 students, so we give personalized instruction. So it's more important to us to develop coaches
Yeah.
than it is to make money. And that's hard for me as a CFO to say. That's actually true. It really is true. That is more important to us, and that's what makes, I think, this group, the 3 ladies, it's really a synergetic partnership, because we all agree up front from a business perspective, these are the most important elements of our company.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. What types of supports do you offer students before, during, or after your program? For those who are doing well and for those who are struggling? How does that look?
I honestly think it looks different for every single student. The first day of class, our email, our cell phone, and our learning management system is right there. It is the first slide we open with. And again, we talked about in the beginning, being connected. That is our goal. They have access to us, and we want them to have access to us. So what does that support look like? It may look like an email. It may look like a phone call. It may look like, hey, can I hang out in Zoom a little longer after everybody leaves so that I can ask this question? We want to be accessible. Again, it goes back to that small class size. So we are here to support them in whatever their needs are. And I think a lot of that is just when we learn our students, we learn what they need from us. We all have different learning styles. We all have different learning needs. And so the more we work with our students, we see what they need. We see how they need to be developed, particularly in those mentoring sessions. You learn a lot about the student that you're watching. And so support is going to look different on everyone.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have done in the past and will continue to do is I'm kind of the techie person, I guess you'd say.
Kinda, yes.
I'm kind of the techie person in the group, and so I usually give out my information. I've created these documents that I can just email to the whole group, to their personal emails to start with, and outside of any other system. And it gives them step-by-step instructions for the technology needed in the course, and then my information's there. So if they run into trouble, they just reach out to me personally. I've had phone calls with students, with them on their screen, me on my screen. I'm saying, okay, click here. Now do you see this? Click here. Because things are a little different depending on what browser, what computer, or iPad, or whatever they might be using. And so sometimes it does take a little that type of support for a student to get going. Usually after the first few weeks, that sort of settles out. They've figured out their own software and their own browsers and stuff. But so we offer them a technical type of support that really is kind of, like I said, at the front. You ask about pre-support, middle support, after support, and Beth, I think, mentioned this earlier. We also have, we did a review course. We just had a Zoom and did this review course for our students who were sitting for the exam this last round, and offered them just another opportunity months after they had, graduated from the Randolph program. So we support them that way. We support them through the Facebook groups that they set up by responding to all their questions and sometimes posting things for them. And that's so we stay connected that way. I've even connected behind the scenes some students from different cohorts that were studying and wanted study buddies, but they didn't know each other because they were in different cohorts. So we even are kind of liaisons between groups and stuff. So our support runs the gamut.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I would like to add that I know with KGR, we're definitely going to do, and we talked about it even today, offer a review time for the students to ask questions. I mean, that will be something essential after, and this could be months, because depending on when they graduate from and are certified from the program, and then they're sitting for the exam, we want to have a time where we're in person again, saying, okay, what are your questions as you've been studying for this exam, if you choose to take it, what are your questions? So I think experience from them has been certainly, because they were telling me about it, how great it was, but for KGR, it will be a critical component.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ooh, so we're on the 2 o'clock hour, so I think in the interest of respecting your time, I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have about this process or any of the questions I may have asked you today.
Well, I have a question for you. So you said 40 days, and I know I've got 48 hours to fix this chart and send it back to you on email. And then 40 days, what are...
40 days total from the moment I was assigned the...
Oh, total. Okay, so what are next steps? When I was listening to the video and all of that, it goes to a committee and they review your report, I guess, that you've written. And so can you tell me more about that process and what that looks like and how we'll hear, when we hear, how we'll hear?
Yes, and so basically I'm going to take all this information from the actual initial review that I conducted, as well as your updated table, and then this virtual site visit today. I'm going to compile it into a report that will be submitted to Jennifer.
Okay.
And so that report is really just verifying the information you provided, really just saying that, I took the opportunity to see the information that was submitted. I did not see any substantive gaps. From what was presented as documentation, it does seem to meet the 10 requirements that have been set forth by the HWC. And then I would forward that to Jennifer. Jennifer then will submit that report that I give her to the program approval committee. They meet on a set schedule, so we're given a certain amount of time to get it to them in advance of their next meeting. And then I believe that. I can't even tell you when the next meeting is. I think they meet every 60 days or so, and that's why we try to get it in those windows. That's kind of where the delay comes in. They will meet, they pretty much will look at the report that I submitted. I do not recommend, or I don't approve, I will recommend, but I do not approve. It's the committee that does that, and then the committee, my understanding is that they rarely ever push back on a recommendation. So, so it's not like there's a lot of back and forth there. They're just there to make the call. If they have any questions, they may come back to me, and then they'll come back to Jennifer, she'll come back to me, and I'll come back to you. Or Jennifer may go directly to you, depending on the nature of the question.
Yeah.
And you will be notified through Jennifer.
Okay.
When she gets the information, she will notify you as of the results.
Okay. Thank you.
So, again, any other questions?
I don't really have any questions, but certainly if you have feedback for us, we're always welcome. You know, we welcome that feedback. If there's anything that kind of stood out to you, I don't know. If you have any feedback for us at all, we have open ears and would love to hear.
It's all positive. Honestly, I've been around my fair share of training, and I've sat through my fair share of coach training as a student and as an instructor, delivering other people's content, delivering my own content. I spent a lot of time on the executive coaching side and as well as on the side. And what I can tell you is that the heart, the intention, what you're trying to do here shines. It just comes through the screen. It comes through your pores, and I really appreciate that. Because there are programs that are about the numbers. It's about, churning out bodies, churning out heads, whatever. But you are really trying to level up the capacity of our coaches. You're really trying to put them out there ready. You're training to readiness. You want them to feel confident and capable. And, at the end of the day, what, our fundamental needs to be seen as competent and have the autonomy and be self-determined, you are delivering that product in such a way that they can, and you honor that, and they can actually achieve that. And I can see the potential of the program. So if that's my feedback.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We are so incredibly excited and just feel so blessed to even be here and be able to do it. And so it's going to be a fun ride, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys. I'm really interested to see the quality and the caliber of coaches that come out of that program. So yeah, so I just say thank you for what it is that you're trying to do. It's a different model. It really is. You're really focusing on the practice, and you're probably making some painful, monetary, decisions for doing that. But I truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'd like to add, thank you so much. This is, for me, because I haven't actually taught the course yet. I'm so excited to do that. But this has been so helpful to me to get just such a good awareness. And I know when we meet, I understand and I feel the synergy, but to hear that it comes through, thank you for that feedback.
It does.
Yeah.
It definitely comes through.
Yeah.
All right. So if we don't have anything additional, there are a couple of little checkpoints I have to cover real quick. So as a reminder, program reviewers do not make the decision regarding approval. We will make recommendations based upon reviewing your application and information from the VSV today. The next steps will include a final report that will be submitted to the PAC, Program Approval Committee, with recommendations based on today's visit. The PAC will make final decisions based upon the program's application and the program in my final report. And then you will be contacted by Jennifer with the decision, or someone from MBHWC will contact you.
Okay.
So, with that, I thank you again for your time and, just really taking the time to walk me through your program and paint a really rich picture of what it is that you're trying to do and trying to accomplish with your students. And, I will follow up with the email to you, Ray,
Okay.
about the table to give you an opportunity to submit that, but it's really, it's not, it was not an error, it was just, you know, we don't treat that as anything other than we effort, so it's not a ding against,
Okay.
submit that.
Phew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Yes, have a great day.
You too, take care. Bye.